Hi! Welcome to Knowledge Quest. My name is Miss Yvette, and Knowledge Quest is our elementary story time where you can enjoy a book, learn some interesting facts, and then we'll close out with a fun hands-on activity that you can do at home. So today, we're going to be reading Verdi, and it's by Janelle Cannon. So that word Verdi, it's not one we really hear often, is it? It's actually an Italian word. Verdi is the Italian word for green. It kind of sounds like another word we've heard before. It's a Spanish word. It's verde. That is also the word for green. But if we look at our cover here, we do see green on the outside, but we do see a snake in the middle. That's not green though, is it? It's yellow. So I'm kind of curious to see what this book is actually going to be about and where Verdi is going to come into play. Let's take a look. Verdi by Janelle Cannon. On a small tropical island, the sun rose high above the steamy jungle. A mother python was sending her hatchlings out into the forest the way all mother pythons do. "Grow up big and green as the tree leaves," she called to her little yellow babies as they happily scattered among the trees. But Verdi dawdled. He was proudly eyeing his bright yellow skin. He especially liked the bold stripes that zigzagged down his back. Why the hurry to grow up big and green, he wondered. Maybe some of the older snakes in the jungle could tell him. Verdi ventured into the treetops to look for them. Umbles, Aggie, and Ribbon were lazing on some branches nearby. Verdi peered at their droopy green bodies. "It's not polite to stare," chided Aggie. Umbles burped and groaned. "It's taken nearly 4 weeks for that last lizard to digest. I surely do like lizards, but lizards don't like me." "Why don't lizards like you?" asked Verdi. "Don't interrupt," Umbles grumbled. "Dear me," whined Aggie. "If I don't shed soon, this itchy skin will drive me bananas." Verdi tapped a tune with his tail as he waited to speak. "Stop that, Verdi. It makes me nervous," Ribbon complained. "Besides, you'll never grow up to be properly green, always interrupting and constantly fidgeting." Verdi couldn't imagine being in such a hurry to be like them, and he really wanted to keep his sporty stripes. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, Verdi slipped away. Dozer was snoring in a tree not far from the others. "Hello," said Verdi. "Do you want to climb trees with me?" "I'm tired," Dozer growled. "Go do a few laps around the jungle, okay?" Verdi's heart sank. Greens were not only lazy and boring, they were rude. At the top of a very tall tree, Verdi gripped one branch with his tail and another with his little snake jaws. "I will never be lazy, boring, or green," he thought. "I will jump and climb and keep moving so fast that I will stay yellow and striped forever." Then Verdi let go. From a distance, the greens watched. "Oh my," they chorused. Ribbon shook his head. "At this rate, he'll be lucky to make it to his first molt." Aggie nodded. "He's likely to put an eye out on a branch." And Umbles moaned. "He may not live to turn green." Hey, I just thought of a snake joke. Do you want to hear it? What is a snake's favorite subject? History. Eh? But one day, Verdi's skin began to peel, revealing a pale green stripe stretching along his whole body. "Cack!" he gasped. "How can this be? I'm the speediest snake in the jungle, and I'm still turning green." He raced down to the river, grabbing up a mouthful of rough leaves. Verdi flung himself into the water. "If I can't run this green off, I'll scrub it off," he thought. His frantic splashing caught the eye of a large bottom feeder cruising the murky depths. "Yum," the old fish hummed. "Lunch." Before the fish could haul Verdi under, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. "Apoo!" With a blast of his rubbery lips, the great fish sneezed, sending Verdi into the air. Slapping on the soggy shore, Verdi skidded out of reach. "Whew! That was close," he sputtered. Every inch of his body was covered with wet, gloppy mud. Kind of lumpy, kind of brown. It sure beats being green." And he left the mud on. But the soft brown muck dried into a hard gray shell, and Verdi could barely move. If he even budged, the stuff cracked off in jagged chunks. As each piece fell away, Verdi could see that his body was even greener than before. "This is terrible," cried Verdi. He pictured himself hanging around in droopy loops, itching and complaining and worrying all day like the old greens. He looked up into the sky where the sun blazed a beautiful yellow, just the color he used to be. Then he pulled a vine to the top of the tree. Launching himself from the treetop, Verdi startled a flock of colorful birds. He became dizzy with delight, sure the bright sun and his lofty speed would turn him golden again. In his joy, Verdi forgot he would fall back to earth. Whippity, whappity, whip, whap, wham! Plummeting through the trees, Verdi landed in a crooked sprawl across a log on the forest floor. He couldn't move. "Help!" he croaked. As usual, the greens had been watching Verdi's antics. They moved quickly to where he lay. "Didn't we say it would come to this?" Umble said, shaking his head. Aggie sighed. "Lucky thing he's still got 2 good eyes." And they gently lifted Verdi up to a safer place where they could watch over him while he healed. Neatly splinted to a branch, Verdi had no choice but to listen to the greens as they gabbed. "Remember how I used to streak across the forest floor?" Ribbon asked. "Quick as lightning," answered Aggie. "And I climbed giant trees like they were nothing. They grew taller then, you know." "The things I dared to run down and swallow," Umbles bragged. "Wild boar were no match for me." Verdi was astonished. "You used to run and climb and hunt giant pigs? What happened?" "Ribbon crashed, just like you," Aggie replied. "I took a terrible fall and almost put an eye out. Then Umbles here nearly choked to death. Now we all prefer the quiet life. A warm perch, a little sunshine, and an occasional good meal." The greens rambled on about their days of glory, and Verdi settled in on his branch. So an interesting fact about this book is that the author actually gave special thanks to a herpetologist here at the Dallas Zoo. His name is Clay Garrett. How neat is that we have a local shout out from this book? Finally, one afternoon, Umble said, "Looks like you are ready to go again." He carefully untied Verdi from the branch. "You're welcome to come with us," said Aggie. Ribbon agreed. The three greens slipped quietly back into the forest. Verdi wasn't ready to join them. He wasn't sure where he wanted to go, so he just stretched and stayed put until the sun went down. He listened to the forest come alive. Time passed. The sun and moon took turns in the sky. Verdi marveled as the full moon grew thinner every night. Then he watched patiently as it slowly grew round again. He wondered why he hadn't noticed that before. Verdi became so green that he blended perfectly with the leaves. He was so still that the other creatures walked right by without seeing him. One fine morning, as Verdi basked in the sunshine, two small yellow snakes approached. They tapped and fidgeted as they stared. "Get a load of that old green guy," one of them whispered. "Do you think he ever moves?" The other snickered. "I seriously doubt it." They're just like I used to be, thought Verdi, and now what I am I was afraid to be. He looked at his big green body and slowly smiled. "How would you like to climb trees with me?" he asked. "With you?" The yellows were astounded. "I'll even show you my fancy figure eight," Verdi replied, though he was a little worried about putting his eye out. With practice, the three snakes performed a perfect triple figure eight, leaping and looping with his little striped friends. Verdi laughed. "I may be big and very green, but I'm still me." The end. What a great book. So we just heard Verdi's story, but now I think it'd be a lot of fun to learn some interesting facts about the kind of snake that Verdi is. So the type of snake that Verdi is a green tree python. Green tree pythons are arboreal, so they live a lot of their life in trees. These pythons have multiple rows of teeth, up to 100 teeth in one snake. That's a lot of teeth. When green tree pythons are hatchlings, they're yellow or maroon. Then they change into a mature green. This process of them changing from yellow to green can take from 6 to 8 months. We learned that Verdi, a green tree python, goes through a color change. So I thought it'd be fun for us to do a color-changing science experiment. For this experiment, you're going to need to gather some supplies. Here's what you'll need. Baking soda, 2 glasses of vinegar, yellow food dye, and blue food dye, a syringe or a dropper, a baking sheet or large tray. Good. And a great thing you should do when you're doing science experiments is use protective eyewear. I've got mine. First, we're going to take the baking soda. Go ahead and pour that into your tray. I am making a snake design. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, now we're gonna take our food dye. Let's grab the blue, and you're gonna put a couple of drops of that into the vinegar. There we go. Now you're gonna swirl it. That way it gets nice and blue. Now we're gonna grab our yellow dye. Same thing. You're gonna put a couple droplets in there and give it a little bit of a mix. Perfect, they look great. Okay, now we're gonna take our syringe or dropper, and I want you to fill that up with some of the yellow vinegar. Do you got it? Good. Now very slowly, I want you to put some of that over your baking soda. Just some of the different sections there. There we go, a couple spots over here. And you're gonna notice something happening. You're gonna hear it too. What's going on? It's fizzing, that's right. What we're seeing is a chemical reaction. The reason this occurs is we are taking vinegar, which is an acid, and we're mixing it with the baking soda, which is a base. Pretty neat, huh? Let's take our science experiment to the next step. Go ahead and grab your syringe, and I want you to make sure that all your yellow liquid is out of the syringe. Is it emptied? Good. Now we're going to collect some blue vinegar. All right, do you guys have some collected? Good, I do too. Now we're going to slowly pour that over our sections of yellow. There we go, adding some blue. And it's still fizzing, isn't it? What's happening is gases are being released. Do you know what kind of gas that is? Carbon dioxide, that's right. And there's some other changes that I'm seeing occurring here. Some color changes. What color are we seeing now? I'm seeing some green on there. So what's happening is we took two primary colors, yellow and blue. And when you mix your primary colors, you get a secondary one. We got green. Neat. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys do some science at home too. In fact, how about you share your photos with us on Facebook? We would love to see you guys all together doing science experiments. Thank you for joining us on this knowledge quest. We'll see you next time for another adventure.